So let's break down today a little bit more about how you can utilize your own intuition to stand out to be that leader. But a true leader would be somebody who can see the individual gifts of other people and not try to make themselves the leader. In fact, it's your role would more likely be that you can support other people with whom they are and allow them to shine their light equally as you shine your light. That's what true leadership, I think, is going into. And, you could go much more deeper than that, but that's the general. And I think building your intuition means that you know yourself, you've experienced yourself. This part of you, this human suit, has a small part of your soul in it, right? Your soul is in it. But there's a much bigger part of your soul out into whatever you want to call it, the ethers, God, spirit, universe. And that means that you individually have the ability to tap into something that's so much more massive than what you are in this human suit. And you came to have kind of a very focused lifetime here. But it doesn't mean that in that focused lifetime that you can't tap into energies that are so much more expansive, so much more creative, so much more understanding and compassionate, so that this journey through this lifetime feels more magical, feels more intuitive, feels more on purpose. And I think that's the part that a lot of us, from when we were really little, it's like, do we get up, we go to work, or we go to school, we come back and we do it all over again. That's kind of like the old paradigm that we're all waking up from. Like that illusion is breaking. And that's why we say that by 2050, more people are going to be, like 50% of the population is going to have their own business. So, and we know that as you're stepping into your own business, that means you've got to take a look at everything of yourself. You've got to learn your shadows and what you're good at. And that sometimes we're trying to mask from ourselves and from the world. I'm not really good at this, but I'm really good at this, because most people will hone in on what your deficits are. And so then your deficits become the thing that you focus in on. Your intuition never tells you what your deficits are, but it will give you the guidance system of the next step in the now so that you can formulate a life that's really fulfilled and worth living, because it won't look like anybody else's life. And we have been really conditioned to thinking, I should do this, this, and this. And how many of us have done the things that we thought, whatever our culture or religion taught us, or your culture being in, what nation you were raised in, whatever that was. And if you follow those timelines, wow, am I hot? I usually get hot when I talk like this. When you do that, what happens is you're able to live a life that feels so much more fulfilling, because you are giving yourself the time to create a life that feels so connected to your soul that nothing will stop you from getting or doing what it is you came here to do. Now that's very generalized, and through my studies of human behavior, I have sensed that for some people, like I was just listening to a gentleman who was talking about intuition as in like kind of a mind control aspect. And his position in it is completely different from mine. And how I know that is because studying human behavior, I understand that I came into this world with the idea of trying to break things down to figure out how that happened. He was somebody who was trying to forecast the future of it. And so his perception of that looks differently than what mine is. But if I were sitting in front of that, not knowing that about myself, I kind of could have gotten tripped up into his worry and his belief system on it. Your intuition and how it is that you process information really can help you see what it is that your intuition is guiding you to the next thing. And it won't look like what your partner, your best friend, your lover, like your children, it won't look that way. But somehow, some way, we think if we're thinking and doing something different, we're doing something wrong. And again, I think that has to do with the idea that we have never built up the perception of what intuition is and haven't nurtured it all the way through. Like, trust me, I know there are those of you out there that have and do, and that's awesome. But I would say for the majority of people, that's not necessarily true. So this is the quest, I think, and this is the journey that I am feeling really excited to support myself in and support other women in trusting that innate ability that's within you, and it's in the men too. But I think that in order for leadership to hit a new space in our world, and if you're still listening to this, thumbs up, it means that leadership needs to evolve into this capacity of the letting go of fear and manipulation. Because in truth, a lot of the times we quietly can manipulate people into thinking something about themselves that isn't true in order to get something that we want. And I think we have to really be honest with ourselves. What I have done, what I've created in my lifetime, the false facades that I have built, and then ignoring the ones that were really true, which means having the potential to look at your shadow side of yourself and owning it. And so that you can catch yourself. It's no longer going to be a society where you think, if no one catches me, then yeah, I got away with it and I made a lot of money with it, or I got away with it and I got this relationship I wanted. Intuition guides us into the absolute truth of who we are and gives us the lessons that we need along the way. So now I'm going to kind of pivot into how intuition can also be that guidance system into your manifestations. And we are only at the beginning of understanding truly how we manage energy around us, how we can utilize it to benefit ourselves and the greater good of all, even in an individualistic way, which is interesting, right? So manifesting, what I've seen over the years, starting off beyond when The Secret first came out and understanding the law of attraction and the laws of reality and all that good stuff, is that a lot of people began to see that there was a potential of doing things differently. And that was the beauty of it. It opened up a new portal for all of us to kind of step through, who were saying, like, this life doesn't feel like there's a lot of potential in it. For myself. And so that opened the doors of all of that. And I think one of the things that it is tipped, because everything tips to one side or another a little bit, right? It's that polarity that we live in. And the polarity of manifestation has kind of tipped into, how do I get it? How do I get it quickly? And then how do I move on to the next manifestation? And that's what it sounds like a lot. And I realize it's not always true for everybody who talks about that. But in truth, your intuition's always guiding you to that next thing for yourself. But it's also going to weave you through situations that might cause you to pause, to have to look at the shadow. And it may have to look at your nervous system. You may have to look at the different aspects of, like, how you've handled things in the past, or the forgiveness work that you need to do for yourself. And I think people who speak of manifestation only in the idea that this is what I want and this is how I'm going to get it, they get frustrated at times with, like, why isn't my manifestation happening? Instead of enjoying the journey, right? Because we've learned with a lot of manifestation tools that you can have this right away. And I'm not doubting that can't happen. But when we follow it through the eyes of our own individual way of creating and believing in ourselves, sometimes that belief means, like, if I want to maintain and hold $1 million home, then we have to dive into, can I believe that for myself? Does it just have to be a windfall, or do I have to earn it? And so many different layers to all that your intuition will guide you to. So if you have this big vision, don't ever take away that vision. Play in that vision, be in that vision, but also know that your intuition is going to take you sometimes in a way that you need to work through in order to grow into that next level of self. And then my last point about intuition has to do with AI. So AI is a magnificent tool. And I'm going to tell you why I think it's a magnificent tool, because for myself, I'm not a great speller. Grammar is not my thing. I always joke that I can't wait till telepathy is here so that I don't have to worry about any of that, because the English language does not make sense to me. So that's my excuse. And so I use it for a lot of different aspects, for my grammar and my spelling. And the words it comes up with are things that, like, I have a bank. I have my, if you know human design, my head and my angina are defined. So the way I do things sometimes can be very, very methodical. And so I have certain words that I use all the time. And so I'm always trying to expand that for myself. And AI has been a great tool. But there's this yin and yang, right? We live on a planet of duality. And I think that's why we have yin and that's why we have yang. And that's why we have, different ways in which people believe this and not this. And this is the way it's got to be. You're right and I'm wrong. But AI is also this idea that we've got new technology out there. But I believe that intuition is going to become the biggest key factor of people living purposely on point with more joy and compassion and abundance in their lives. Because what is abundance? It's not just money, it's the abundance of whatever it is that you came here to play within, right? And so AI is a great tool, but I already see that there's going to be some new psychosis coming through with the use of AI. Because you've got to remember, it's never going to argue with you unless you ask it to give you that input. It will always tell you you are amazing. And gosh, don't we need that sometimes? But you also have to be cognizant to ask the questions that would rebuttal what you're saying. Because it's only as good as what we feed it. But your intuition is your soul speaking. And that soul that's attached or can be connected to infinite ways and directions of how to live a very fulfilled life, is magnificent. But that means you have to learn to trust your intuition. And that's where the big balance comes. How much easier in a quick moving society is it just to sit down at a computer, throw out your questions and say, what's the answer? Instead of going inward to say, what's the answer for me? And maybe you do both. There's no right or wrong. I'm just saying, maybe you do both. But I think it's something that we have to be really cognizant of as we are looking now for leadership that isn't trying to condemn or tell you you're right or wrong, but instead leadership that helps people evolve and grow with peace, love, and compassion as the forefront, as the runner, as somebody who can ask for themselves, but also for the highest good of all. That there's difference in that, right? Is this going to benefit me? Is this going to benefit my family and my direct line? Or can this benefit me and all that I'm involved in, which would mean all of consciousness? That's where we are needing to go into. That's where I feel like that there are some of us who are ready to step more into that. So whether your business or your family is ready to grow and to develop into a way that looks completely different than what other people are doing around you, then maybe you're ready to develop that intuitive spot for yourself. Maybe you're ready to learn the different ways in which you can learn to trust and know when it isn't the ego or when nothing's coming through. I think it's the biggest thing with intuition is like nothing's coming through. Well, sometimes nothing's coming through for a multitude of reasons. And it doesn't mean that you're disconnected. It means that maybe there's something else you have to be doing in order to receive, or maybe the timing isn't right for you to receive it. And that's a tough one to really grasp onto. All that to say that intuition, I think, is going to be, if you're ready for it, if you're ready to move more forward in how that looks, how it would evolve, how it would help project you out more in, if you're working for a company or you own your own business or you are the forefront of your family life, how it is that you could utilize that and experience it. And I'm getting ready to release a brand new 12-month program where we are going to intently look at that through all seasons of life. And access intuition in many, many different ways and have a safe place in which you can practice it without the eyes of, is she correct or not correct? Because that is the first thing that the ego will say. And this isn't about you learning how to do psychic abilities so that you can go out and do it for other people. This would be more of you working on yourself, because we have to know ourselves really well first and our own intuitive abilities. And I think that's more important anyways. We've got to stop going to other people for our own intuit. We have to trust ourselves. It doesn't mean we don't use other people, though. Please don't get that. It doesn't mean we don't ask other people to tune in for us, especially when we're in crisis mode and we can't hear it or see it for ourselves in that moment, and many other reasons. But so if you're interested in learning more about what's coming in this very tight-knit group of women, just DM me. And more importantly, leave me comments below about what it is that you're finding with your intuition. Are you finding that you're needing to fine tune, or that you can't seem to understand when it is your ego or not? Tell me in the comments below. I kind of just want to know where everybody's at with all this. And as always, sending you all many, many blessings during this massive change on planet Earth. And let's hold each other accountable with love and compassion as the forefront. Blessings, you guys.